desperate on my knees to break. And I hear the voice of an angel telling me not to lay down.
Today I'll explain to you guys if there's a red state and a blue state in Korea and how it applies in relation to what we Americans think of red and blue states as I show you amazing Jeollado. What's up everybody? I'm here in Jeollado, kicking off my second day of my southern coast South Korea tour, and I'm so excited to start off my day by climbing Seoneunsan, which is gonna be the first mountain I'm gonna climb here in Jeollado province. Now Seoneunsan is actually not that tall. It's 300 and something odd change tall, but throughout the day, as an added bonus, since most of you guys probably have never heard of Jeollado province, I'll be giving you tidbits of what I know about Jeollado province. And off the bat, I can tell you Jeollado province, they're known for their cuisine. They are what you would maybe call the rice bowl of Korea. And being that there's so much farmable land here in Jeollado province, there's always an abundance of food. And that's probably why they have some of the best tasting cuisine in any of the regions here, because they're not just simply satisfied and content with having food in their stomach, but it has to be delicious. Anyways, I'll continue with what I know about Jeollado. But for now, the task at hand, which is climbing Seoneunsan. And I'm understanding that I have to first pay an entrance fee to the temple here. I guess if I had a fever, I would have paid the ticket price for no reason. So check your temperature before you come here during COVID time. I can tell you the facilities around this park are top notch. So it is true what they say, don't judge a mountain by its height, as I found out the hard way when I climbed Palbongtang, which was the shortest mountain I climbed up to this point. This is going to be my shortest one so far. As far as Seoneunsan for K-pop fans, this is where they shot these dramas and movies. I'm old school, so all I know is this one, 대장금. So it's quite interesting. I heard one of the men out there complaining that he felt mistreated by the people that are collecting money at the temple because they're suspecting that he has coronavirus and like swearing and stuff. And talking about the old times, like, you know, you're not really supposed to pay to come to a mountain. They're just there collecting money, which I don't know. I'm just a foreigner, so I have no say in it, but all I can say is, you preach it, brother. You know, I didn't expect it to be so beautiful at this time of the year right now, because in the southern province, the autumn comes a little later because it's warmer, so I didn't expect the leaves to turn red and yellow quite yet. And that's why I wanted to save Nejeongsan, which is actually closer to my grandmother's house, for a time a little later, because, you know, that's actually the low-key king of autumn foliage, not Seoraksan, which is far better known, which I went to a bit while ago. But as far as the foliage, this is better than Seoraksan. And I'm not even at Nejeongsan yet. And this isn't even peak season, so, oh. Anyways, this is the temple right here. Let's see if I can get some great footage flying the drone. So all the temples in Korea have these 4 guardians that guard the entrance. I gotta say, those were the cutest sculptures I've seen so far of them though. They don't really scare me. Wow, the temple here is really big. my aunt was telling me a lot of the people that come to this mountain come here more to view the temple than actually climb the peak. And seems like it has some historical significance. Wow, it's almost like the palace. I'm not Buddhist, but this is interesting. So I'm sure my Buddhist friends out there will find this definitely interesting. Interesting, I think he customized the chant for this region because I definitely heard Jeollado. By the way, what this is if you've been to Thailand, you know the practice of buying gold leaves and plastering it onto a statue? This one is a tile, and you can customize it and you can write a message. And I think they use it for some of the roof tiles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it is. I think it's you get better bang for your money because your gold leaf in Thailand just blends in with everybody. This one you get to actually tag your name and message on there. Wow guys, this one has a collection of bells. I mean, I've seen these bells a lot, but this one even has like the big drum, as well as that fish that's gonna barge into that metal plate and create a, maybe it's a symbol. So they got a whole percussion set over there. So I like how they have an animated map here so I know where to go. So I started out here and I just walked this distance, and now I'm at Seoneunsan. I plan on going around, and Suribong is my must-go destination. That's the highest peak here, and I guess coming around could take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Finally, nobody around. Oh, I can take my mask off. Now, I just want to clarify the whole thing about the mask, because some people seem to be interpreting that I'm somehow deadly afraid of the virus. That's why I choose to have my mask on everywhere. But you have to understand, in Korea, it is the law to have the mask on in public spaces. So, as a foreigner, not only will I get fined if they catch me without a mask, but you know, in extreme cases, it could lead to deportation, etc., etc. Maybe not, maybe so, but either way, it's not really worth breaking the law and, you know, etc. As much as I am a red-blooded American, and I'm all for, you know, doing what I believe in my head, also as a red-blooded American, and I'm all for following the freaking laws in the state, right? So if it's a law to wear a mask, I wear a mask. So don't interpret that as me being weak or something. That's just the way it is. Natural path up to the peak. But over there is another small little temple. And I just wanted to talk about an interesting experience I had down there while I was flying my drone around and capturing sights of the temple. So, you know, I want to be respectful of the people around there, and you know, if it was in Gyeonggi province, which is near Seoul, people are very suspicious of you all the time. I could go into like the most deserted farm area and be just taking a drone footage of the rice fields, and they'll be asking me, what are you doing? When obviously there's nothing else I could be doing other than just like flying a drone, right? I mean, it's not like I'm a North Korean spy out here to spy on the farmlands of Korea. So, whatever the case, I decided to test the waters and fly the drone around the little creeks. And what ends up happening is a bunch of older people come and they're looking at me with amazement and asking me all sorts of things about drones because they want to get a drone. They're like, how much is it? How long can it fly? So, you know, I amuse them and it's great. Oh geez, I hope I am going the right path though. What the frick? Okay, I see some people coming behind me, so I'm not completely lost. I'm just concerned when there's not a lot of people on the trail Not because I think I'm gonna get lost, because my GPS is more than capable of getting me to the right place. But if it's a trail that's not often used, chances are there's snakes. Now, as far as snakes are concerned, you know, some people are saying, oh, it's so dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Fatality rates with snake bites in Korea are super low. Whatever the case, I, just like with my thoughts on the coronavirus, would rather not get bitten by one and figure out later how painful it is. So that's why I'm just being extra cautious, guys. So, no, don't worry, I'm not gonna die. Tens of millions of people hike out here in Korea, and I'm actually in the upper percentile of, you know, the fitness and age bracket there. Anyways, back to the funny story, and forgive me if I'm sort of going in a runabout way of talking about this topic, because I'm going to talk about a very taboo subject out here in Korea, which is how sort of regionalist Koreans are amongst the different regions here in Korea per se. And it's very hard to say it in an unbiased way, so I want to just portray the whole situation. Anyways, so first of all, I can tell people here in Jeollado province pretty chill. Like, that's what I hear. People in Jeollado province are very chill people. You know, they're generally just farmers, etc. Amazed by technology. You know, they're not very suspectful of me. You know, am I spying on a Buddhist temple? I'm gonna like infiltrate and take away some secrets to the communists. I don't know what it is. But anyways, one thing I did have in that encounter was, when they first asked about me, they don't ask me my name, they don't ask me my age. The first thing they ask is, where are you from? You must be from Seoul, right? And this is something you'll get when you start venturing outside of Seoul to the different regions here in Korea. Now, as a foreigner, you're not gonna know too much of them. And I just recently learned myself on this trip. So, here are the regions. You got Gyeonggi province, and within that province, you have Seoul, special city. It's actually technically, on a legal sense, considered a whole separate province, but for the regionalist idea, Gyeonggi province, Seoul people, they're city slickers, right? That's what they are. Now, contrary to how you might relate to back in America, it's not the people in the city in Korea that are necessarily gonna be liberals, like in America. You know, New York, LA, blah, 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 liberal. You know, that's what people are already assuming. They're like, hate everything about K-pop. I hate Seoul because they're just liberals. Nah, actually, Seoul is a moderate region when it comes to politics. Now, when you get to the other area, there's Gangwon-do. You know, that's the places I've been covering. Very scenic, mountainous area. The sense I get, most people think, Gangwon-do people, weird. Why the heck would you live like alone out in the wild? You know, strange people that live out in the wild, in the mountains. On a positive note, they also think, oh, very strong people, you know? But I think people are relatively unbiased against Gangwon-do people, because like there's not many of them. It's like out in the wilderness, right? It's like, are you biased against an Alaskan? You know, there's not that many, right? So then you got Chungcheon-do, which is like a small, geographically small area in between Gyeonggi-do, right in the center of South Korea, and Gyeongsang-do and Jeollado, where we're at right now. Chungcheon-do, I don't know, I just hear that they're very stubborn people, but for the most part, they're so close to Seoul that, you know, people don't really have too much of an opinion. However, when it comes to Jeollado and Gyeongsang-do, oh boy. It's almost like the red state and the blue state out here. So, you know, my uncle used to tell me there was a time when there wasn't even a road that went east and west in the south. That's how much these people don't like each other. Like, he's probably exaggerating. And, you know, before I start going on about the details of Jeollado and Gyeongsangdo, full disclosure, I'm not an expert. You know, I'm not like a geopolitical scientist or whatever, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong down below. But I do think I have a relatively unbiased opinion about all this, even though my grandmother lives in Jeollado, just because I associate myself as an American. And all this was strange and interesting to me when I first came. So, Jeollado used to be, back in the days, Baekje Kingdom. Back in Korea, there were 3 kingdoms, and they always fought. Baekje and Silla. Those were the oldest 2 kingdoms, right? And they used to fight, and then they created Goguryeo, which Korea is named after. And they sort of overtook, you know, all of Korea, unified all 3 of them. But for the longest time, Baekje and Silla, they went after each other. It seems like there's a lot of differences between them. You can, you know, fill in the historical, you know, I never studied Korean history, to be honest with you. But from what I understand, there's no love lost between these 2, right? And you have to understand how geographically they're situated. Gyeongsangdo is located on the eastern coast, very close to Japan. It is the closest point the Japanese can attack, invade, and trade with. Whereas Jeollado is located in the southwestern coast, geographically very close to China. That's where the Chinese could theoretically attack, although I'm not aware of too many naval attacks from China, or certainly trade. So back in the days, I would imagine Jeollado quite geographically advantageous, because, you know, China was a much stronger country back then, much more to trade with. They're also a vassal state, meaning Korea was a vassal state to them, etc. But this has all shifted with the Korean War, World War II. The eastern coast has become more strategic. As you all know, South Korea is very, very predominated by American, right? Our political system, everything. Just because they helped us out in the war, and basically we owe the whole existence of the country to the Americans. So the eastern coast is far more strategic, and Japan, being a close ally of America, is also our closest trading partner. But lately, with the emergence of China, not so much. And now there's what I understand to be a very tragic time. And those of you guys who watch my Thailand videos and follow what's happening in Thailand can maybe relate. Korea not long ago, just a few decades ago, was even more of a militant, military-run state than even Thailand is. And at that time, that particular president, dictator per se, apparently favored Gyeongsangdo province. Developed all the ports and everything around there. You can probably owe Busan being the second largest city in Korea, probably due to all those policies back then. But what really rubbed the Koreans the wrong way and kept this regionalist thing alive, you know, from back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and, you know, the ancient Baekje and Silla kingdom were, you know, at it, was he sent a bunch of military troops into the largest city in Jeollado province and massacred them, right? That kept it fresh. And something you have to understand is Jeollado and Gyeongsangdo people are quite ethnically different. They have a completely different dialect. When you listen to them, it just sounds different. I'm not an expert, but, you know, if I was from Gyeongsangdo, I think it'd sound like, you know, if I say I'm from Busan, it's like, 부산에서 왔어요, you know, something like that. And then Jeollado maybe is like, you know, I would say something like, 광주에서 왔습니다. I don't know what it's like, but I can sort of tell when I listen to it. 경상도 is a bit more pronounced. People say it's a bit more aggressive, but I think it sounds cute. Jeollado sounds like very slow, you know, chill people, like country folks, like a southern accent. So you got that. Plus, their cuisines are very different too. You know, being a very agricultural state, Jeollado, their cuisine isn't as fishy, you know? And this was a big thing for me because, all right, my grandmother was from Jeollado, so I grew up eating not too fishy stuff. I mean, the whole point of Jeollado cuisine is to tone down the fishy scent. Whereas Gyeongsangdo people, man, when I had their kimchi, they will throw raw oysters in there. And it's like, what the heck was this? As a kid, I hated that. You know, now I can appreciate oysters. But, you know, their cuisine is very different too. And again, culturally and even politically, I would say somebody from Gyeonggi-do is a moderate. It's like they're somewhere in between, you know? So yeah, the fact that you can tell them apart, plus the fact that, you know, they have all this bad blood between them in the past, old folks like them tend to ask, where are you from, you know? And I think I got away good because I said, you know, I'm from Yangpyeong, which is up in Seoul. I mean, I identify myself as a person from Seoul, honestly, because I grew up there most of my life. Which isn't most of my life because I left Korea when I was 7. But for the most part, I was from Seoul, right? But then they're like, oh, isn't there a lot of coronavirus and blah, blah, blah. And you'll notice, like, people down here in the south, because the virus is far more contained, are more freaking out about the virus. So I'm like, oh, you know, just score a couple points for them. But my grandmother lived in Cheongwon, and they're like, oh, really? And I guess they sort of see me as one of theirs. I mean, they further go on to ask which side of the family, the father's side or the mother's side, because in Korea that matters, you know. You belong to the father's side. I'm like, yeah, the father's side, you know. So, oh, they're so polite. I was flying the drone. I left this selfie stick there, and I was about to go get it, and they come, you know, because I walk off like maybe 20 meters, and they're like, oh, here, you forgot this. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much, you know. They're so polite. So that regionalist thing sort of kicked up in there, and I'm thinking, did I get favorable treatment because I said my grandmother is from Jeollado? So as a foreigner, you know, I don't think it's gonna matter too much because you're just a foreigner at the end of it. You know, you're not from any of the regions, so there'll be just as much of a unbiased as much as a bias against you, which sort of works out, you know, it's all the same. Zero-sum game here. You can never win. But, you know, just be aware. This kind of stuff maybe sort of exists out here. But anyways, I'm at a intersection right here. I had to head that way to get to the peak. Overall, this has been a very pleasant hike, and you know, if I could be talking and hiking at the same time, you know that it's an easy hike. Continuing. So first of all, I want to say, when you're younger, dealing with younger people, this regionalist stuff really doesn't matter as much. I think it's probably the older folks that care about it more because they lived through those times when they were massacred in the city by this region, supposedly from a president that favored another region, etc. You know, to me, I wasn't during that time. I could empathize with them, but I can only empathize so much because I didn't live through it. Neither am I Korean, you know. I'm American, so I really have no say in the politics of this region. But what is interesting is, why then are these country folks split between conservatives and liberals? Well, it just happens to be from back in those days, those policies have gotten the people sort of in the southeast prospering. That's where the biggest cities are, that's where all the money is, that's where the ports are, blah blah blah. So the conservatives want to hold on to their money, you know. Has nothing to do maybe with ideological beliefs per se, but it has more to do with preserving wealth. So if I was a rich person, I'd likewise probably do the same, ask for less taxes, blah blah blah. People from Jeollado got a chip on their shoulders, right? I mean, first of all, back in those days when agriculture was big and that's what brought all the money in, they're prospering out here. But now with industrialization, modernization, it's where the factories are, etc., that matter, and they're mostly down in the southeast as opposed to the southwest here. So to some degree, people here got none to lose, you know. That's how I feel. So the more changes there are and the more promises they make for taxing the wealthy and then putting in more stuff into this region, I would support it, right? You want change. You don't want the status quo because they feel like they got screwed over back in the days. So that's how it's very conservative and liberal. And that's what I noticed during this election. This particular president is from a liberal party. And if you look at how the votes were split in Seoul, it's relatively moderate. Although, you know, this time the conservatives really screwed up with that last president, who I believe was the daughter of the president that, you know, issued the massacre. You know? Anyways, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, I know that she was the daughter of a dictator from back in the days. Anyways, so the conservatives lost, but when you go down south, it was fun. Split between party lines down south. They all voted conservative in the southeast. And you know, when you get into Busan, which is like the city and where you probably have, you know, more migration and younger people that aren't as regionalist, etc., I think I saw like 1 or 2 places go liberal. But if you come into Jeollado province, everyone is voting liberal. So here, you know, relatively similar things happen, almost like in America, where if you're a Democrat, you sort of get labeled as a socialist, communist, you know, although, you know, to me, democracy is all sort of socialist anyways, a little bit. So it's just a matter of how socialist you are. And the authoritarian government part of being a communist, that's what I don't like about being a communist. Less so than the, you know, economic policies per se. But it's a complete sequester. They do get labeled as communists. And it just happens to be that this current president is a bit more friendly with the Chinese government, you know? Although I had to correct one of my viewers who thought, you know, he's totally on the side of the Chinese. And I said, no way in hell anybody, any president in Korea at this point, with all the geopolitical things that are happening around here, can ever side with the Chinese. And the reason for that is because you got the Americans just pretty much stationed here. It becomes very tricky when you side with the Chinese, because as much as they value China and having a friendly relationship with them, fact of the matter is, biggest trading partner is America. So you're committing economic suicide. And yeah. Not a slight to any of my Chinese friends, but it's just a matter of survival, guys. You can't survive with just going with the Chinese or just going with the Americans. So he's put in a sticky situation, but just being how South Korea is, it's really tough to particularly go heavy on the Chinese. What I think he is doing though is pretty smart, playing both sides, you know, keeping China as a valuable trade partner, whereas balancing that, not trying to piss him off too much, and also keeping America as a trading partner. So I think Korea is probably the most neutral country out there. You know, they're just a small little country stuck between huge superpowers, just trying to survive. Which, by the way, I think I'm almost at the top. So I'm here. It was sort of uneventful actually, but I do see the view clearing up. And to be fair, I think I took a route that's not very popular and scenic. So I think I'll get something more scenic as I go. Ooh, whoa, whoa, ready. I see the low-lying hills. I don't even call them mountains, you know, compared to what I see up in Seoul. And then you see that, oh, vast farmland right there. And very characteristic West Coast type of coastline where you see like that very muddy water because the tides have gone down. And there's a lot of delicious food that comes out of those areas, like little octopuses and different kinds of little clams and shells. I mean, forgot to mention, not only is the west coast of Korea abundant in agricultural foods, etc., because of the farmland, they're also abundant in seafood just because they have that little muddy kind of stuff, and a lot of seafood comes out of it apparently. So this region is blessed with food. So that's it. That's the peak. And now that we've also gotten all the political crap out of the way, we can just go on to enjoying Jeollado for, you know, happy themes of great food, great sights, etc. This route is definitely more scenic because you're walking along the ridge. That big clearing over there, that's where I'm headed. And you know, I actually realized it's quite a distance to where I parked my vehicle, which is way back there, but it didn't seem that long at all. It's just I had to hike up a bit. Well guys, this is an even better view. The views just keep getting better. If you had to choose one route, definitely go on the left hand side. And in hindsight, you know, I think I should have done the other loop around on the left hand side and double backed around here, but being that it's gonna start raining in an hour or so, I'm gonna have to get back down as soon as possible. But anyways, let me know what you think about the topic today. It is a bit of a taboo topic, but you know, this is the kinds of topics that I'm personally interested in, just because I'm curious, and I thought you guys would be interested in as well. But oh my gosh, now it's even better. This is the best view so far. Wow, that's a beautiful lake over there, and you can clearly see where I'm going to be heading back. Okay, now I see why this is a top 100 mountain. It's definitely worthy of it. It's definitely better than Obongsan. Oh man, remember that mountain? I just like only found mushrooms, and somebody later commented over there was a mushroom that was worth its weight in gold by the Roman emperor back in the days because it's so rare. So I was right, great mushroom place. But other than that, wow, I like this place. It's nice and short and sweet and scenic. You know, when in Rome. Something I find interesting here, it's the rocks. Compared to the mountains I've climbed up north in Seoul, it's less quartzy, definitely less slippery, and it has this interesting wear pattern where it's like jaggedy. I'm at an intersection presented with a choice here, and it makes me regret taking that other route back up that way. If anything, because this is more rocky, I should have gone up here and gone down there. But furthermore, I think I should have taken the route through this other temple up here and then went back down this other route here because, you know, there really wasn't much to see back there. But I am going to detour a bit and check out this temple, not only because it is a point of interest, but because I think the route down is going to be more scenic, being that that's from a temple. I don't know, does this logic make sense? By the way, if you are worried about getting bitten by snakes, I did a bit of research into the poisonous snakes here in Korea. First of all, they're definitely not as poisonous as the ones in America or even Thailand. There's definitely no cobras, etc. So you don't have to worry too much, but if you are on the lookout, you know, because there's all sorts of different colors, the poisonous ones in Korea are generally like this brownish color with black stripes like diamond, you know, things here and there. So just look for those are generally vipers. Easy way you can tell is they have sort of like a squared off face, and the fatter they are, the more poisonous they are. Generally they say if you get bitten by like the really poisonous one here, you have about 5 hours to get to a hospital and get injections and all that before, you know, it gets too serious. But it also depends on how healthy you are. There is an exception. They call it like a flower snake because it's so beautiful. That one you really can't miss. It's green with like all sorts of different colors in the top, like red, etc. The reason why that's poisonous is it's not poisonous initially, but it's able to store the poisons of the frogs it eats. So it actually doesn't even have an anti-venom for it. Although the chances that it bites you and furthermore that it has poison still left over, etc., very low. And one thing you do have to be careful of is they say that the snakes are at its most toxic in the fall, which is what it is right now because they've eaten a lot of food and they're healthy from the summer. So they're sort of weak in the winter, non-existent, you know, and then it just carries over into the spring. So if you're really that concerned, that's something you could, you know, be aware of. But at all times, just be aware and informed and educated. You should be fine for the most part. And in Korea, 911 is 119. So if for whatever reason you get bitten or whatever, that's what you would call. But for the most part, I hear, you know, people just walk down the mountain, drive themselves to the hospital, and you know, around 2-3 hours, and it starts swelling up and blistering. That's when it really hurts, and they'll give you anti-venom. Alright, here it is, Chamdam Temple. To be 100% honest with you, I'm not that impressed. It looks like it's under construction. I can't even see the Buddha there. But I, you know, paid $2.50 to the temple, so I wanted to get my money's worth. And, you know, worst case scenario, I figured I'd just let you, the viewers, know if you are given the opportunity to go out of your way to go to this temple. Not really worth it, you know, but you decide. I'm showing it to you. You do have a nice little bamboo, it's not a forest, but like display. You can take selfies there. I guess that's nice. Other than that, you know, the temple down below is so much better that this seems like, you know, how I felt when I went and saw Yuttaya after I went and saw Angkor Wat. Underwhelming. That's sort of a rare sight. You know, I don't ever remember seeing any Buddhist monks in Thailand or anywhere else in the world for that matter having a car. I guess in Korea they've caught up with the times, you know, just how modern the Koreans are. You know, the monks have caught up too. It's like, oh, you need a vehicle to get around, more practical. I got invited for a drink and I had some peanuts. Really lovely people around here. they're just like, I want you to have a good impression of the locals around here. And oh, I do. It's like I almost want to come back just for the people. You know, very similar to why I like Thailand, you know. Maybe people think it might be the food or the scenery, the beaches. Honestly, you can get all of that elsewhere, but it's the people that makes me want to be in Thailand. But this region of Korea, so far, my second day, I have a very good impression of it all. Ooh, look at that. There's a little Buddhist thing. Which reminds me, they educated me on the fact that this temple here is actually ranked really, really high. Which I can believe because it looks like a very historical temple. And, you know, as a matter of fact, the more popular mountain around here is Nejeollado, which means like intestine mountain. But it is the low-key best autumn mountain in Korea. I mean, a lot of people think it's Seoneunsan, but people who have been to Nejeollado know that's where you want to be. But I saved that for another time because I wanted to go when it was in full bloom. But they're telling me the temple there is actually ranked lower and within, you know, the control of this temple. So they're very proud of it. You know, it's like the things you learn when you start talking with the locals, but only possible because they decided to invite me. And coincidentally, those people were the ones that, you know, were like waving when I was doing this selfie thing. He thought I was taking a video of him, which is very surprising because generally in Korea, you know, you're free to take selfies and such, but they're really like protective and suspicious that you're gonna use oh my gosh, my glass is fogging out, nobody around me so I can take it off. They think that, you know, maybe you're gonna use the footage and portray them in a bad light. They're very suspicious of stuff like that. But I mean, I don't get any of that out here. People are just very open, welcoming, not suspecting anything, you know, just see it as it is, which is, hey, some guys just taking videos, promoting, you know, my region, and they would just like more people around. Yeah. So it's very simple-minded, I guess, but I'm pretty simple-minded, and that's what it is. And you know, they're like, oh, when I looked at your face, I can tell you're a nice guy. It's funny. But whatever the case, yeah, this is a long-winded video. I try not to do these because people tell me, oh, nobody wants to sit through a 30-minute video, 40-minute video. But again, let me know what you think. I have to do one of these eventually because there's also other people who miss them. And on that note, look, they're constructing something new over there. It looks pretty massive. So I guess my $2.50 is going towards that. So you guys can come back and enjoy more beautiful architecture. Alright guys, so I'm back at Seoneunsan Temple again. Circle back around, and I'm really gonna wrap it up this time. I don't think I'll get stopped by anybody inviting me to eat peanuts and drink makgeolli or whatever. But you know, overall, I have to say that I really like this mountain. Less so for the peak, although it does offer some great views and a moderately paced challenge. I really like, you know, if you want to come here and just have a nice little hike and see the temple, this is really great. I haven't really seen anything else that's so laid out, so chill, not that many people, considering, you know, how nice that temple looks and the pathways are paved. I can now seriously understand why this is considered a top 100 mountain here in Korea. And also having interacted with the people here, I think it really portrays Jeollado really well. You know, on cover, 300 and something meters doesn't seem like it would be a mountain that would be interesting, you know? Just like Jeollado, it's just a flat piece of land where people farm, etc. But it is generous with sights, amenities, and plenty of things to see and eat. I'm gonna now go back, meet up with my parents again. They should have recovered from the crazy journey we had yesterday across Korea, and I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy more of this southern area. Hope to see you guys again next week, and I'll go back to my regular shorter video format. But definitely let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, if you like the commentary and the insights that I'm giving, and if I get enough positive comments, maybe I'll try it again.
여기 너무 멋있다. 이거 어떻게 해? 이거 어떻게 이거 잡아야 돼? 여기다 한번 잡아봐 여기.